He spoke to me very gently and he said, hello, my son, I am the carpenter. You know me and I know you. I love you as you love me and as I love everyone. I want you to do something for me. I'm going to speak through you if you choose to, but you won't remember this or anything else until the right times. I was shown my omnipresence. So I was shown all of the other me's that had come to that point. I was also then presented with this ball of light, and as I touched it, it showed me everything that I was, everything that had been beforehand, everything that was then, and everything that I would be in the future.
My guest today is Ainsley Threadgold, who had a near-death experience. So, Ainsley, welcome. Thank you so much for joining us today.
My pleasure.
So, you had a very interesting experience that you did not initially remember. So, I'm going to let you just share it in any way that makes sense for you to share it.
Thank you for welcoming me on this show. I had a near-death experience. The time of the incident that happened and the time of me remembering are years apart. So when I was 13, obviously I'm from the UK, United Kingdom, was going out to help my father and my brother after school deliver pamphlets to the local village where I grew up. And we were out doing that. I was with my father and my brother. Pretty mundane, you drag your feet, you want to just get the pamphlets out as quickly as possible and get home. I was looking forward to having some food, getting back. And then going to the last place that we were to deliver, we drove there, and the last thing that I remember was seeing the road sign, Clay Lane, and then nothing else. I don't remember. It's just like a black spot. Everything, went black, and I don't remember anything else until I woke up 6 to 8 hours later, in hospital. It was strange. It was like an orange glow in this room, and I immediately realized it wasn't my room. Um, and then I looked up, and I could see my father, my mother, and my brother looking very worried. And I'm like, I'm not in my room. I'm somewhere that I don't recognize, and I've got my family with me. And it was at that point where they told me that I'd been hit by a car. Um, the car that had hit me was traveling about 40 miles an hour. So, I mean, I shouldn't be here at all, especially not being the age I was. Luckily, I've always been big, so I think that was one of the things that saved me in a sense. But as I say, that was, the first of many miracles was the fact that I survived that. But I had no memory of it. It was just a big black hole of a memory. And I was in hospital for a while. While I was in hospital, the only thing that was out of place really was the fact that I realized that I couldn't wear watches anymore. So I'd had a watch bought for me for my 13th birthday. I was very proud of. It was my first sort of real wrist watch. And that unfortunately had been destroyed in the accident. And my parents bought me another one. I suppose it was as a relief, I'm still here. And I put it on, and while I was in hospital, the watch stopped. It was a brand new watch, nothing wrong with the battery, and just it stopped. And then the next one, same thing. And I found that that successively would happen anytime I wore one for any length of time, normally a few days, it would do something, and that would be it. And then as I was growing up, things like cell phones came in. For a long time, if I had a cell phone with me, the signal would be dead. I'd take the cell phone out of my pocket, put it on the side, and then all of a sudden the signal will come back. CDs, radios, I've melted the inside of digital camcorders, drained the battery of my car, all sorts of things that happened. And it was just one of those things, but it was odd because I couldn't do that before, but that was the only thing.
I
Um,
guess we're lucky we're able to have this conversation today.
yes, so I found side thing. I actually found out that there's a bit of a phenomena for people who've had near-death experiences where occasionally when we do affect electrical things, partly down to the emotional state that we're in, and also it's down to like a healing process that we either are a part of or haven't gone through yet, where there's like cracks in the, I suppose in the soul, in the energy body, and that can interfere with electromagnetic equipment. And as I've gone on my healing path, that's become less and less. Unless it's really charged. I mean, there's times where I've given talks where, there'll be sparks going off behind me. People will see flashes of light and the lights will dim and things like that. But mainly now I can control it.
Wow. So and I know that you were able to uncover these memories through a past life regression, and I want to go into the details of all that. But will you share the actual NDE that you were actually able to uncover first?
Yes. So, as you've said, I had a regression. I had hypnotherapy. The thing that led me to the hypnotherapy, which I think is important to the story, was that when I was 34, I developed acute sciatica, and it affected me in exactly the same place as I had my left leg completely smashed. So the sciatica affected that exact same place, and what happened was that I couldn't feel anything from my knee down. It was very numb. I went to see an osteopath, and as I was talking to him, I was interested about whether there was a correlation between the accident that I had when I was 13 and what was then going on with my leg. And then I mentioned the fact that I couldn't remember the accident and I couldn't wear watches and things like that. And he was like, "Oh, well, it sounds like you had something called a near-death experience. You just don't remember it." So he gave me a book, and the book was by Dr. Penny Satori, who'd done 20 years worth of studies into the phenomena. And I was reading away and I was reading people's accounts, and it's like, that sounds like me. I've had similar things. Yes, I affect electrical equipment, but I still just didn't have a memory. So long story short, with me being, a police officer, I'm very interested in things, and I'm also quite impatient at times. And I wanted to, fast forward to, well, how do I get to these memories then? If I'm being given this book and I've been given an opportunity, how do I find out whether there is anything in there that would suggest that I've had, some experience? So I looked into hypnotherapy, and I found a lady that did regressional hypnotherapy and also past life regressions as well. But the main reason for me being there was the hypnotherapy. So during the session, I was I won't go into the details of how she progressed me into this state, but she was able to gently take me into a state of consciousness where I was sort of aware I was on the bed, but I was also aware that I was that super conscious was available to me, and I was asked to choose a door, and that door would represent a part of my life, so it could have been any part of my life. And the door that I chose during this part of the session, I went through the door, and the idea was that you would look at your feet to see what was on your feet, and then you would see whether how you felt and what clothes you were wearing, and then you would look at your surroundings and things. And I very quickly realized that I was actually half in a ditch, and I was back at the aftermath of having been run over. So I remember, in my mind's eye looking up, and I could see the ambulance and the ambulance crew coming over, and they put me into the ambulance. And while I was in the ambulance, I had a visitation from my grandfather on my mother's dad. And now he died 3 months before I was born, so I never knew him. But I found out afterwards that actually he was always like a guardian to me, so he was always with me, and he still is. So he came to me as a visitation in the ambulance, and told me everything was going to be okay. Wanted me to pass a message on to my mother if I could, which was that he was very proud of her. He died when he was 49, and had never told her how proud he was of her for being who she was, and wanted me to pass that message on to her. He said, but before that, I just want you to relax and close your eyes, and everything will be okay. So as I did that, I felt myself being lifted out of my body, and I was risen up into this cloud space. It was almost like I could see like a cloud city in front of me, and it was like floating on a meandering river. So I was, being taken towards this cloud city. And as I was getting closer to it, I could see there was this figure coming towards me in the distance, and I got closer to the figure, and the figure got close to me. And then when I was near the figure, it was like a male entity in white. I was brought to a standing position, and this entity knelt in front of me, put his hand on my chest and on my face. And while I was envisioning this, I could also feel it when I was on the table. So the 34-year-old me could feel the hand on my chest and the hand on my face. It was it was incredible. As well as, remembering this, I could also feel it. It was like the in sync with it. And he spoke to me very gently and he said, "Hello, my son. I am the carpenter. You know me and I know you. Um, I love you as you love me, and as I love everyone. Um, you're very special, and I'm I want you to do something for me. I want you to speak for me. I'm going to speak through you if you choose to, if you choose to. But you won't remember this or anything else until the right times. So at that point, I'm so far into the regression, and then I just remember being put back in my body, and then I had some very painful memories of actually being in the hospital, and then the lady that did the hypnotherapy, Karen, brought me out of it. Um, Now the whole session I thought had gone on for about 15 or 20 minutes. I didn't realize that actually, until I'd listened to the recording afterwards, it was like an hour and 20 minutes long. So it was, yeah, that idea of time just goes out of the window. I had no concept of the fact that I'd been there for that long, or I just remember the emotions of it. And I still to this day remember the heat of the hand on my chest, and it was like the warmth of the sun. It was incredible. So I was given like an amount of the um, experience. I thought that that was it at the time. I didn't realize that there was more until afterwards. But I woke up and I'm like, I have had an experience and it feels great, but then I had this great weight of now I need to do something with it, and I didn't feel worthy. I was in a pretty spiritually bad place at the time. I was very closed off. I'd been painfully shy as a kid, and that had followed me throughout my into my adult life, and I found it very hard to communicate. I was very stoic. I'd never really learned how to share how I felt about things. I would always just remain quiet, and that affected my relationship with my then wife quite greatly. And I didn't know how to communicate how I was feeling. So this now I'm being told that I'm going to be communicated through, and it's like that. This was my opportunity to take a really good long look at myself and be like, I need to heal. I need to do something to start to at least feel worthy of this great cause. So that was the start of my healing journey, which led me on to other synchronicities, which we'll discuss as you progress the interview.
Wow. Okay. So I want to go back to your grandfather first of all. So
Mhm.
since he died before you were born, had you seen pictures of him and you recognized him, or did he tell you? How did you know it was your grandfather, I guess?
I'd seen pictures of him, when he was before he was ill. So like at my parents' wedding and things like that. So I recognized it. It was almost like a knowing sense as well, as opposed to just sort of, oh, that looks like the guy that was in the photographs. It was just that's him. And I think that's probably because that whether I knew it or not beforehand, he was always with me. He's always been a guardian. He's always been around. And just like any guardian, they don't often, show themselves in a vision to you. They are just there, and sometimes you'll just get something that be like, oh, they must be round. We do get that sense of people who've passed on. And yeah, you just know.
It's got to be so comforting to know that no matter your situation, that you can speak to him and he's there. And it's probably the same way for all of us, don't you think?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, when we step aside from the ego, when we step aside from the fear of, oh, what if I'm just making this up? I mean, I was asked this question a few times during different talks that I've given. Well, what happens if it wasn't real? What happens if this is just a figment of your imagination and it is just a way that the brain is trying to comfort you before you die? And it's like, well, it doesn't matter. It's completely changed. I've completely changed. And yes, I've had to do some work afterwards, but that's not the point. The whole thing is that I've completely changed, like in my essence, and I know I've changed. And that's enough for me. So it really, it doesn't matter. And going back to the question about the past loved ones, I mean, you'll know it feels different. It's not like an ego thought or whatever. It just you have that sense of knowing, you have that sense of intuition, and it doesn't matter whether people believe you or not. It's like, no, I have got angels, I have got guardians, and they are with me. And sometimes they'll show me that they're there. And I don't necessarily need a sign. I mean, some people, want physical proof. It's like, well, I don't know, throw some coins in front of my feet, and then all of a sudden someone spills some money. Um, you know, it's whatever gets our attention.
Excellent. That's super helpful for people who want to connect and know that their passed away loved ones are with them. I love that. So, the Cloud City. I have not heard anybody describe a cloud city before. Is there any city that you've ever been to that resembled what you saw in that experience?
Not a city, but the only time I've ever seen any view that's ever come close to what I saw in that experience was my wife and I we lived on Maui for nearly 2 years. And just before we came back, we went for a sunset at the top of Haleakala, which is the volcano there. So obviously we're 10,000 feet up, so we were above the clouds. And as the sun was setting, because of the way that the clouds were, they lit the top of the clouds up, and it was just this golden fire that was on the top of the clouds, and just the way that they were, it was just like that's it. That's almost like the experience that I had. It's the closest I've ever come to it. It's just if I could have floated through those clouds towards towards the mass that they'd formed, it was like that would have been my experience. And as I say, for anyone who's either ever been or is thinking of going, if you go at sunset and there is the clouds there and the sun hits it and it does look like this heavenly royal cloud city. It's yeah.
That's awesome. Now I can picture it a little bit more. So you also said that you had an experience with a man and you called him the Carpenter. Can we make the assumption that this was Jesus, especially because of the love statement?
Yeah, that I mean, I truly believe that's what it was, but I also believe that the reason why he introduced himself in such a way was just to try and um it's a little bit like meeting your favorite actor or musician. I mean, how starstruck would you be? Um but to have the humility, for him, I mean, I was brought to a standing position and he knelt in front of me. It's like it was um the most special thing in that he wasn't special, it was me. So I feel I could only have really connected to that with him coming down to the point where it's like that's how he referred to himself as far as I was concerned then. I'm not quite sure whether I would have had it I would have been able to cope with the experience had he said yes, so I'm actually Jesus. So it was almost like how can I describe it now? Trying to gently introduce something really exciting to someone, and as opposed to just sort of giving him this thing or giving him this superpower, it's like trying to gently expose them to that phenomena and for them to be okay with it. Just like I don't know, the UFO phenomenon, it's been drip fed to us for years. If people had learned that actually there are beings from other planets and they've been visiting us for 1,000 years, and suddenly we met them without any other anything else to explain it, I think our tiny minds would explode. But because we've been drip fed movies and things, it's sort of like, oh, okay, yeah, I get it. So I think that that's what it was. It was just coming in on that level where I could cope with it at at that young age.
Yeah, no, that makes so much sense. So can you describe what he looked like?
Um, it was the energy. I mean, he was I say he was dressed in white. There was just this light coming out of him. And out of his face as well, and his hands, and I do remember a beard, but there wasn't really much of a visage, a face to go with it. And again, I think that was also purposeful because it's a little bit like meeting God. I mean, what does God look like to you? Well, probably looks different than he does to me, or different than he does to someone else, or is it a she, or is it is it anything? So I think the most comforting thing was to have the almost like a blank slate, where it was the energy, it was the love that just was uh, was the thing that described that to me, if that makes sense.
No, that does make sense. I've heard that before. What do you think he meant when he said, I know you and you know me?
I think that was that connection that we're all connected. And it was the statement of, well, you know who I am. I'm not going to say I'm Jesus. And if I'm Jesus, then I'm God. And if I'm God, then I am you. We are reflections of each other. I cannot, we intrinsically linked. We cannot not be. So I think that that's what that was that, sort of, I know you and you know me. And it's that, I suppose it's like someone who has a brief moment of clarity that where they've had, like, say, Alzheimer's, and then they suddenly recognize that the family is in the room, and they have that, have that moment. It's like, oh, this is my family. Or like with Krista, when she started to piece together her memories from, her life. She had no memory of anyone, and she didn't recognize her husband at the time. She thought he was someone that was just working at the hospital, and then suddenly things start to piece together, and it's like that. It's like that sort of thing. It's like, oh, that's who you are.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so he tells you that he's going to speak through you.
Mhm.
And you have this whole experience and you come back and you work on yourself spiritually. Is there a time that all of a sudden something happened when you realized, oh, wait a minute, this is him speaking through me right now?
Yeah, and actually, what I recognized was that it'd been going on f for a long time within my adult life. Um, as a police officer, there'd been many times where people would approach me and start to talk to me about very personal, private things that they'd never spoken to anyone about, and I would just have an answer. But it felt different than me talking. It was like there's this warmth that comes from here, and it's almost like it follows me up my throat and comes out my mouth. So, I didn't realize at the time, but it was just I was channeling something, and it would be the most settling answer for them. And they could have been told that 100 times by different people, people who are close to them, but it was just something about what was being said and the way it was being said that I knew it wasn't me. It was coming through me. It was being channeled through me. And it's like, huh, so I have been used on many occasions where, and it's again the synchronicity of I just happened to be stood where I was stood, and someone just happened to go, oh, officer, oh, by the way, I blah blah blah, and they're not talking to me about anything criminal or anything like that. They just, I don't know, felt an to talk to me and what they were talking to me about. I'm not even sure whether they realized that that's what they were going to say, but it was always, yeah, it was always that thing of they would just talk to me about something, and I think sometimes that surprised them. I didn't realize I was going to say those things. I've not told anyone that, and then all of a sudden I'm coming out with things that have, that helped them. I was always pleased that that was the case, but until I was given that little bit of information during the experience, I didn't really understand quite why it was happening. It was just I just sort of accepted it.
So, did you have kind of an epiphany moment the first time that you had something come through you where you knew, oh, wait a minute, I have this new information. I've been told that that Jesus is going to speak through me. and you recognize it as it's happening for the first time.
Yeah, and again, it's that warmth that comes through, and um, the sense of what I'm saying. Sometimes it just makes more sense than I can make of it. I've had it happen when I've done talks as well. Um, I very rarely prep for things. I don't make notes and whatever, and that's like, people have other opinions in that, but I do that expressly because I know that there's an opportunity then for me to be spoken through should that be necessary for whoever's in there. Um, and when I've watched back or I've listened back, I'm like, there's no way I could have come up with that. There's just no way that the wisdom there is just beyond me. And I'm relatively intelligent, but there's some things that have come through and it's just so on point, and I'm like, it helped me. Let alone, and there's times where people have come up and said, just said exactly the right thing. I came in to listen to this talk and you just said exactly the right thing, and it was like you were speaking to me. And I'm like, of course, thank
No
you.
accidents at all. So, in your opinion, after working with Jesus, who is he? What is he?
He's us. He is us. He is the what we aim for, I think, when we're going through our lives, when we have an idea that there's something greater than what we are, the greater part of ourselves. And when we allow that to start to channel, and when we start to see the differences in our lives, and we're not so self-absorbed, we're not so self-centered and selfish, but we do start to take care of ourselves more. We don't give from an empty cup anymore. We're not trying to make up for something or trying to, we don't feel guilty about things. We realize something about ourselves which is different, which is that we are a collective. And I think Jesus represented the collective, and hence the reason why he was here. He was trying to show us that this is the potential for us all, if we choose, as opposed to trying to like formulate a religion or trying to imprint or stamp, this is how you must be. He was trying to say, this is how you can be. This is the potential for you if you wish. So, he is love. Love is him.
So, what do you think about the way that religions portray him?
Um, I have a little bit of a difficulty with it because for quite a while during my 20s, I used to go to church. I felt like I needed to. I felt like I needed to be forgiven. I almost had like two crisis points. I had a crisis point in my mid 20s and then one in my mid 30s, which is where the near death experience came in. And for a short time while I was in church, I had all the answers for me. I went to like a Pentecostal church, and I found that that was more me because it was allowing for spiritual gifts. So the church I went to, I was able eventually to pray in tongues, and I was able to interpret messages while I was in the church, and I was like, great, this feels like home. And then suddenly it didn't, and I felt like a hypocrite because I didn't quite believe everything that was being preached upon. I couldn't reconcile this idea that the good people who haven't heard of Jesus Christ, but do everything for the family, give to charity, and are wholesome people should go to hell. It didn't make sense to me. So rather than be a hypocrite, I came away. So from a religious perspective, um, I'm not sure whether they quite give the true impression of the magnificence of the love that is represented there. It's bigger. And one of the messages that I had come through to me before I left was Ainsley, open the box. I'm not in a box. Don't box me in. Open the box. I'm more than this. And it was, yeah, of course, it's more than just what's written in a book or in a, spoken in a church place. It's everything. It's in everything. It's the light, it's the dark, it's all of the in between. Love is everything, and that's how um I feel that that's what he was representing, is that's, love is everything.
I am so glad to hear you say that because it's a confirmation of so many people who have had encounters like you
Mhm.
with Jesus on the other side. And over and over and over again, he says, it's about love. That's the only thing I am. I am love. Like, take all of the religious pieces out of it. Do not put me on a pedestal because I am
Mhm.
you.
Yeah, exactly. And he couldn't possibly have been everyone to everyone if he was on a pedestal, because then he would have just been like the Pharisees, and like he said to them, the outside of your bowl is very, very, very decorative and it's very clean, but the inside isn't. It's void. And the whole point of that is don't be so pious and so far away from people that you can't help them.
I'm also realizing something else I think that you said. So correct me if I'm incorrect in this, but didn't you say he knelt and put his hand on your chest
Hmm.
and put his hand on your face? He wasn't standing over you like somebody who's in a power position. He
Hmm.
knelt down to the level that you were at, and you would have been a child at that age, but not on a
Yeah.
soul level. So, will you speak to that a little bit too?
Yeah, and I mean it speaks to the I'm trying to think of the word now. Come on, you're supposed to speak through me. But it just speaks to the character of God coming here in human form to teach us. And the humility there. Um, like a father to a child. You don't stand over your child when you're trying to impart that they are loved. You kneel down to their level, and you become eye to eye, and it's like this. You lower yourself to bring them up, and that's kind of what that was. It was the lifting up of my soul in that moment, and that's how he did it. It was just like try not to be too starstruck by this. I am, well, human. In that sense, in that moment, it was just like, we are on the same level, and we're no different, and I don't need to feel as though we are. Again, take me off the pedestal.
Wow, love it. So, is there anything else that's come up since that past life regression about your near-death experience that you've also remembered?
Yeah, so the synchronicities with Krista and I and how we met.
Okay, well, let's talk about that. So, first of all, I want to share with everybody, I interviewed Krista a week ago about her near-death experience. And so it's really cool. We didn't know that this was happening today. You didn't know that I had interviewed her last week. She didn't know that you had this interview coming up. And you were actually supposed to be on my calendar a couple months ago, had to
Mhm.
change it, and you wound up 1 week apart from each other. This is so crazy, but also not crazy. I'm using air quotes when I say that.
Yeah,
So please do share this incredible connection of you two NDEers coming together.
yeah. So the after I'd recovered at least the first part of the memories of the near death, I wrote to the website for the book, the near death experience book, and it was Near Death UK. And I, shared that I'd had the experience, and they wrote back to me and asked me whether I would be interested in helping them because they were based in London. I was based in the north near Manchester, and they wanted to set up a satellite operation in Manchester for people who were trying to connect. They were having too many people come in for them to be able to cope with just one location. So I said, yes, of course I'll help. And they put me in touch with a lady that became a very good friend of mine called Kelly Michelle Walsh. And she'd had a near-death experience after committing or trying to commit suicide. And she came back with this idea of bringing like-minded souls together to change the world. So we connected, and after 2 or 3 months, she asked me whether I was on Facebook. I'd come away from Facebook a year before, and I wasn't going to have anything to do with it. And she sort of said, "Well, look, there's lots of nice near-death experience groups, and you can meet people from all over the world, and just try it." So I did. I made myself a profile, and I went on, and I joined the groups that she had suggested. And then after a short while, her and I were talking on the phone, and she was like, I want to set my own group up called the Positivity Power Movement. Will you help me? Of course, again, I'm given this opportunity to help grow something. So, she invited people that she knew, and I invited, the few people that I'd met through the near-death experience groups, and we started to gather in this new group, Positivity Power Movement. One of the people that she'd invited was Krista. Now, the reason how they met was Krista at the time in 2014 was writing her book, and she was looking into English publishers and had come across Penny's book, Penny Story's book, and had emailed Penny to ask her about the publishing in the UK. Kelly at the same time had also written to Penny. Now, Penny at the time, I've met Penny. She's lovely, but she had 14 or 15,000 emails in her inbox that she just wasn't going to read. She was busy with work and with a child, and the only two emails that she read were Krista's and Kelly's, and she decided to introduce them to each other. So they'd been introduced. So Kelly had invited Krista to this group, and we come up with this thing where we would do videos of who we were and what we believed in and what we felt that we wanted to achieve, in the group and in the world. And people posted their videos and everyone got likes and loves, and it was just like the energy of it was fantastic. And I'd been really moved by a picture I'd seen of it was a war-torn country, and there was a small 4-year-old girl who had her arms up as if to surrender. And the premise of the picture was that the photographer had taken it and he pointed his camera at her, and because of where she was from, she thought he was going to shoot her. So she was surrendering. And it it broke my heart. And I realized how fragile we are as humans. A little bit like the acorn falling off a great oak tree. We're very fragile, but we have to be, broken to grow, and we can grow if we allow it to. I just did this really impassioned video, and it got what I could see was got no views, no likes, no loves, and it was like dead in the water. I'm like, oh, I was so moved by this image, and I suppose a little bit of ego came into it as well, and I was like quite disappointed that I hadn't had anyone look at it, but actually I did, and I didn't realize. And the person that viewed it that means the most to me now was Krista, and she'd viewed the video several times, and she was like, who is this guy? I'm a big guy, and she said he looks like a rugby player. What's this big guy talking about love and frailties for? And she said the energy of it hit her like a freight train. So at some point after that, we connected through her trying to do her video. We shared some messages and things, and then we became friends in the sense of it's online. I mean, she was here in Florida and I was in the UK, so and certainly there was nothing else. It was just a case of, well, who is this person, and why are we connecting so well, and what's the interest there? So we let things slowly develop, and as things were happening at home, my first marriage failed, and not long after that, Krista's marriage also, we separated. And in the meantime, we were sort of off and on connecting with each other as friends, and there was times where I found it difficult, and I backed away a little bit, but she was always there for me. Um, I come away from it was a particularly difficult point where I came away from everything. I came away from social media, and I was just like, I can't. I need to. I'm going to run away. I'm too scared. There was all of these feelings and emotions coming up, and I just needed to shut down. And I'd forgotten that I was part of another group that she was also part of, and she contacted me there. And she wrote me the most moving sort of little message, and part of that was, I'm not quite sure what's going on, but please reach out to me if you need me. I feel like I know your soul. And it's
You
like,
just gave me goosebumps.
yeah, you know, it just it was moments like that where I just, I'd close my petals and I'm like, no, I'm stubbornly not going to open up to the sunshine or anything. And she was just a gentle encourager to me. And I couldn't help but just open up again. And we went from there to starting to develop an actual relationship. And yeah, when she first came over to visit, she came over to see me first. She flew into Manchester Airport, and it's an airport that I knew very well. I policed part of the airport back then, so it wasn't unfamiliar territory. But when she, finally came through the gates and we were in front of each other, it was like everyone else disappeared. And we had a moment where we were just it was just us, and we shared our first kiss, and then I couldn't find my car. She had to help me. I was just like so like, oh, what is this? The energy of it was just incredible, and yeah, I'd never had feelings like that before. It was just, yeah, it was amazing. And that developed, and then that led me to, after about a year and a half, I think, it led me to having some really deep experiences with meditation. And one of those experiences took me back to my near death. And that's where I started to have more pieces of that come back to me. So I'll talk about that now if you want, yeah.
Yeah, perfect.
Um,
I'd love to hear more.
so I was brought back into the cloud space. I was brought towards the carpenter. Um, and again, I had the hand on my chest and the hand on my face. Um, and he spoke to me like he spoke to me before, but it was more of a, as a choice, do you want to stay, or do you want to go back? And in that point, I was shown my omnipresence. So I was shown all of the other me's that had come to that point through, similar circumstances. And they'd all chosen to stay. I didn't quite know why. But I was also then presented with this like ball of light, just like a bowling ball size crystalline light. And as I touched it, it showed me everything that I was. So everything that I had been beforehand, everything that I was then, and everything that I would be in the future. All of the choices that I would have to make, all of the hurt that I would cause or would be caused to me, everything that I'd have to go through. Um, and then I understood why the my other me's, the omnipresent me's, decided that they didn't want to go back. They didn't want to go through the process and the suffering. And neither did I at that point. It's like, no, give that back. I'm not sure whether I'm ready for that. But I was allowed some time, and then I was taken to um this moss-covered rock, and I could see this lake. And as the lake water was lapping against the shore, I realized, as it was lapping up and then drawing back, that that's love. Love washes over you. It comforts you. It's there. You're closeted in this wonderful experience, and at the right time, it also draws away. It draws parts of you away, the unnecessary parts that you don't need anymore, that we're trying to hold on to. It sort of gently draws those away. So as it's drawing away, there's no need to fear, because love will always envelop you again. And it was like, okay, so I got the understanding there, and I thought that I'd made the decision I was going to make, and I was then brought back, to the carpenter, and he stepped to one side, and this feminine energy was then in front of me, and she spoke very softly to me, and she said, "Hello, my love. You don't know me yet, but if you choose to come back, I want you to come find me." And then I knew immediately it was Krista. I came out this meditation. I'm just like, it's her.
Wow. Wow. Let that sink in for just a second. How incredible. How much do you think of our lives are predestined versus the free will choices that we make that change things, shake things up, move things around?
It's it's a mixture of both. So I know from other friends of mine that have had different experiences. They've had like pre-birth experiences where they've chosen their lives. and all of the significant things that go in that life and the order that it goes in, and the rest of it's up to is up to us as beings when we're here, and then we get the divine nudges. So I think we get given many opportunities to you know get in line with the path that we've previously chosen, whilst we've also got the choice to meander how we want to. Like the river always gets to the ocean. However much it bends round and bends back on itself, it always eventually gets there. And I think that's the same for all of us, really, which is that we've got this destiny that we've planned out, and we've planned all of the people and all of the events that would keep us on track, while also allowing ourselves to be human. Um, it's almost like so we don't drop the veil too quickly. We didn't come here to be pure souls. We came here to experience an aspect of the whole. Um, I think it was Neil Donald Walsh in his Conversations with God books where he was talking about the fact that the soul's progression. We want to God is the knowing, and we are the living of that knowing. We come here with the different aspects of that knowing, and we're all individual parts of that, just like drops in the ocean. The whole ocean is made up of everything, and we are the mini experiences of all of that knowing.
I'm going
So.
to run something by you since you use that analogy. So, the thing I don't like about the drops in the ocean is that I feel like a drop can be taken out of the ocean. It could go somewhere else, it could evaporate, and it wouldn't be part of the ocean anymore. It has the ocean in it, but it really isn't part of the ocean. And so, when I've been describing souls and how they relate to source or God, however, whatever word everybody wants to use, I think they're more like waves because the wave can never not be part of the ocean, but yet it has this individual characteristics. There will never be another wave that is exactly like the one that rose up, that is you, that is me. So
Mm.
I'd love to know what you think about that.
Yeah, I mean, I completely agree. While also looking at the scientific idea of energy is that energy can change its form in many ways, but it can never not be energy. It never dies, it just changes form. So, like you say, with the drop in the ocean, you can take part of that ocean away and it can evaporate, but just like naturally with how clouds form, they form by the sun heating the ocean evaporates the water goes into the air, becomes water particles, and it rains down.
So it still goes back.
And it eventually goes back anyway. It's that circle of life thing, and I almost want to get Elton John to sing the circle of life for us.
I love
Um,
it. Wow. Oh my gosh, so much here. So, with these soulmate connections, the reason I love that you shared that story is I think you give people hope. People who think that there should be a relationship, maybe they don't have to worry about it so much because I don't think you could have not met Krista in this lifetime. I think it would have been impossible for that connection to not have been made because it
mhm.
sounds like you two both agreed. And so, for people who are watching, what can you tell them that helps give them hope about maybe a relationship that they're longing for or wanting to have that isn't there right now?
I suppose the thing about anything is that when you're looking for it, it's never there. And when you relax, when you release, when you not when you give up, but when you just let go of the controlling aspect of, well, I need it to be like this, and I need it to happen like this, and I need it to be this person and in this way, and you just release and let the universe do its thing. You have the idea that you want to be in a relationship, or you have the idea that you want to be an entrepreneur, or you have the idea that you want to be whatever, financially free. But the more that we add the details, the less the universe, less we allow the universe in. I always describe it as like it's bubbles, not balloons. So if you blow a whole bunch of bubbles, you enjoy them for the moment they are there, but you don't worry about them popping. They do what they want to do and then they pop. So that's like the best way to intend for something, which is that you blow the bubble of intention and let it go and let it do its thing, and you're not trying to control it. Now, what we tend to do is we tend to blow balloons instead. And what do we do with balloons? We tie strings around them and tie them around our wrists. We're holding on to our intentions and they're not going anywhere. They're just bobbing around in the air. And it's like, I'm trying to go somewhere, but you're holding on to me. So, perhaps just,
Whoa. I love this. Oh my gosh, what a wonderful analogy.
yeah. So it's just about letting go. And then, the intuition takes over. So you do the next right thing. And for Krista and I, it was always the next right thing. And it's still the next right thing. Even now we were married in 2018. I moved it to Florida in 2019. There's been challenges. I mean, I've got a daughter in the UK that I'd love to see more than I do. The pandemic hit and that got in the way. We moved to Maui and with all of the, even just general life, but what we have is each other, and we constantly challenge each other to stay open, to keep growing, and that's what makes it work. She is a divine reflection of me, and I'm a divine reflection of her, and that's how we see each other. She knows when I'm not feeling good or I'm off. Even if I don't know myself, she'll be like, "You okay?" And then I'd be like, I'm not sure." And I'll do the same. I'll do the same for her. We know each other that well, and she's given me permission to be open, like I'd never been prior to. I have to thank her for just her divine patience.
I loved my time with Krista. Like what a beautiful soul.
Yeah, she's just, yeah, I love her to bits.
So how do you live your life now differently, knowing of the omnipresence of your soul, how you have all these future paths, knowing that we are here for love? Like how do you live your life differently now?
In the main, I try not to worry. That was one of the things that really was a focal point in my life. I was very concerned about things that I just didn't need to be worried about. Being an officer in the UK. And over here as well. It's the same over here. We do have that thing of we are concerned. We put a report in. Did I do it right? Did I, did I do? And we try and analyze everything. Um, One of the things that taught me that we have no control really over anything other than just letting go and letting life really unfold, was back in 2018, just after Krista and I got married. I had a cancer diagnosis. I was diagnosed with testicular cancer, and suddenly life becomes very real. It's like we've just got married. We were starting the process of filling the paperwork in for me to come and live here, and then all of a sudden this is like, no, no, hang on, you've got life to live for now. So big shock. I had an operation to remove there was a tumor on my left testicle, so that was removed, and that was sent away to be tested. Um, and when I went in for my initial appointment afterwards, it was like 3 or 4 weeks later when I was recovered enough. I was expecting them to give me this is going to be the path. This is what we're going to do with you, and you should be okay. What I didn't expect was for them to turn around and say, "Well, sorry, Mr. Threadgold, but we believe, and we're very rarely wrong, that you haven't got it wasn't testicular cancer, it was a lymphoma." Um, and it's like, oh well, what does that mean? Well, that's not our department. That's hematology. It's not oncology. You're gonna have to wait for your appointment with the hematology department. So basically, just go away. And I'm left with what? With lots of questions and no answers. Um, I did the silly thing and went on to Mr. Google to find out what that would mean, for me at my age at the time. And it was what I read for all the studies that I could find was that anyone with a primary presentation of a cancer tumor, which was lymphoma, where I had it, would have had like an end stage autoimmune disease or HIV or something like that. And that's it. You're done. You've got months, weeks to live. And I'm like, um, I didn't know what to do. I'm like, I've gone through all of this, and Krista and I have just gone through all of this to find out that I might not be here. And how have I affected people? If I did have an end stage autoimmune issue, and this was the case, then have I passed it on? Has my daughter got it? As my, and I just completely, within a short space of time, I collapsed in on myself. And then Krista, being Krista, gave me the ability to make a choice. I sent her a message and I said, I think I've done something a little bit silly. I've gone onto Google and found these things. And she was working in the ER at the time, and she stepped out and she made some time for me. And she said, listen, everything's going to be okay. You know, I love you. I'm with you. Um, and it doesn't matter what's going to happen. It doesn't matter if I have to quit my job and come over there to be with you there, or maybe we can bring you here. It really doesn't matter. We'll do whatever we need to do. But I love you. Um, and that was that point without having any answers, no medical answers there. It was a case of, do I choose fear or do I choose love? And it was a very distinct choice that I made at that moment. I'm like, no, I'm going to choose love because that's what we're here for. So if my life had been shortened, and whatever I was going to make, whatever I had left, the best moments, I wanted to leave a legacy. Um, and then a week later, I had a phone call from a nurse practitioner who I'd spoken to. She was working in the hematology department. She said that she would go into the meeting, that the second meeting about my condition, and she was going to advocate for me with my particular circumstances. And she phoned me up, and she sounded quite happy on the phone, and I wasn't quite sure why. I was with my mother in one of the local towns, and she was like, "Oh, Mr. Threadgold, so we've had the meeting about your particular condition, and we're completely relieved to say that actually you haven't got lymphoma. You had cancer, but it was the most mild form of testicular cancer. So it went from a death sentence to, and we're very rarely wrong, to it was the most mild form. Now, you could turn around and say, well, maybe they just made a mistake on the slide, or someone, read it wrong, or maybe love was the answer, and that was my little divine miracle.
Well, you weren't done delivering all your messages to people, clearly.
Well, there you go. But this is the thing about the what we were talking about, and I just thought it was a good analogy on that, which is that, if we let go of that fear and we just trust that everything, all is well, regardless of what's going to happen. If all is well, then all is well. If we let go of that fear and we just trust that everything, all is well, regardless of what's going to happen. If all is well, then all is well.
Yeah.
We're not meant to be here forever. We're in
Right.
these human forms,
Yeah.
and there is going to be a time where I do close the door on this life and go on to something else. But I know and have faith and trust that while I'm here, I'm protected. I'm looked after. I'm being guided, and I just have to. I try and live my life like that now.
Beautiful. Well, I'm curious for the people who are watching, what struck you the most about Ainsley's experience? Was it the near-death part? Was it how he had a past life regression and uncovered everything? Was it his love story? And even if you don't want to answer any of those and you just write, waking up the collective, those things definitely help these videos. So I would imagine that there are people right now who would love to connect with you. So will you tell people how they can connect with you?
I mean, it's normally through I don't have anything particular. I don't have like a YouTube channel or anything. I tried one years ago, and I found it was bothersome. So it's a case of, I just trust that the people who are meant to connect will connect. They either will write something on this channel or on another channel that they find me on, and I'm meant to connect with them in some way, shape, or form. And I allow the magnificence to take shape.
Are you open to interacting in the comments?
Absolutely, of course, yeah.
Oh, excellent. Okay, so maybe don't answer my previous question. Maybe ask a direct question. I'm going to ask you one final question, and that is, Ainsley, what do you know for sure?
I know that love exists. I know that love is everything. Um, I know that it's there for all of us, regardless of where we are in our lives. If we just decide to choose love over fear, then it can have a magnificent effect on our
Mm.
lives, even just on you don't feel good on one particular occasion about one particular thing. Well, how can I transmute that? How can I change that? How it's about how I feel. So that's important. How I feel about an interaction is the important rather than the interaction. If I feel terrible about it, then it's the most terrible thing in the world. But if I choose to feel differently and be more open, then maybe there's something in there that can teach me about me. I mean, it's all divine, regardless.
Oh, that's so helpful. So, Ainsley, I want to thank you so much. Thank you for your vulnerability and for what you are doing to help wake up the collective. It is so needed right now.
Yes, I firmly appreciate you bringing that out because it's, as I say, the emotional connection is the key for me, reminding myself that the experience is important.
Yeah, that's great. And of course, this show is absolutely nothing without all of you who tune in to watch, to listen, and to share these beautiful experiences with somebody who needs them. And if you still have questions, you can join me for Wake Up Wednesdays live at 5 p.m. Pacific, 6 p.m. Mountain, 7 p.m. Central, and 8 p.m. Eastern. Thank you, everybody, for watching. Do you believe that love never dies and you want to hear stories that prove it? Well, hit the subscribe button. You belong here.